Well, good afternoon one more time for this series. The last one. Bit of a milestone this for me. 100 videos with this one. I know a lot of people have put a lot more videos out. And yeah, I'll be putting a lot more out as well, hopefully. But yeah, 100 videos. It's a milestone for me, that is. Anyway, like I say, this one's the last one for this Scottish trip. And it's because I split this day into two because of the time they were taking, So on this one we go out onto the Ayrshire Coast, out of Balmoral, and just a little beyond Balmoral, and a couple of no, I wouldn't call them tall stories in particular. You make your own mind up, but one of them was a bit gruesome to say the least. But anyway, see what you think. It's been a great trip, as this bimble around Scotland, and I hope to get up there very soon. Well, we're going back up in August in the van anyway, but it's not quite the same as that. But either way, like I say, have a look, see what you think, and thanks for watching this series anyway. And the usual, thumbs up, subscribe, tell me what you think, drop me a comment. I always answer them, you know that. Alright, see you in the next one, wherever that may be. Cheers.
Now we've come into this, it's only a short valley as this, just a few miles long. This is Glen App, A-double-P, Glen App. And at the head of the valley, hidden behind the trees, is Glen App Castle. Glen App Castle back in the early 20th century was the home of Lord and Lady Inchcape. The family name was Mackay, and the head of the family, he actually rose through the ranks of sort of merchant navy, if you like, and eventually became chief executive officer for the Peninsula and Orient line, P&O. But his daughter, Elsie Mackay, she was quite a character. She should make a real name for herself as an actress, and but Elsie Mackay, well, it's not just a marvellous name as a budding actress, a budding film actress. So she gave herself a stage name, or a screen name more to the point. Poppy Wyndham. She didn't last long in the film industry because she was discovered to be having an affair, which this day and age would guarantee your future as an actress or an actor. But the reason I've stopped here is because this is where Poppy Wyndham, or Elsie Mackay, was buried. Well, she isn't buried now because she's never found. She's commemorated in one of the stained glass windows here at Glen App Parish Church. Because as well as being an actress, she was also a bit of an adventurous, and I think it was 1924. My dates are a bit rusty with dates, but 1924 she was decided to attempt to fly the Atlantic in a single engine aircraft. She wasn't on her own, she had a co-pilot with her, but it's reported that her parents threatened to disown her if she persisted in this ridiculous venture of trying to fly the Atlantic. perfectly okay for her to have an affair with a married man, unmarried actor, but when it came to doing something ridiculous like trying to fly the Atlantic, no, that was beyond the pale. Either way, she took off from down south, never turned up across the other side of the Atlantic. She was lost and never been found somewhere over the Atlantic. So, like I say, she's commemorated here in one of the stained glass windows. So yeah, that's Poppy Wyndham. Well, proper name, Elsie Mackay, from Glenap Castle, which incidentally is quite a high quality hotel these days. Hotel and restaurant, way above my means. So we'll go a bit further. So yeah, we come over the top now, over at the top of Glenap, in the trees to our left. Well out of sight is Glenap Castle I was talking about. It's well and truly out of sight. Like I say, it's very exclusive hotel and restaurant these days. Certainly not in the Mackay family anyway. Now we're just beginning to drop down to the next village along the coast, which is a village made famous by Robert Louis Stevenson in one of his novels. It's not one I've read. I suppose he's most famous for Treasure Island, amongst others. Well, the book he wrote, based on this place, allegedly, is The Master of Ballantrae. Now, what we do know about Robert Louis Stevenson, he was the grandson of the founder of the Lighthouse Stevenson family. He did spend a little bit of time involved in the Lighthouse project, but he got a far more artistic bent, if you like, to him, and he decided he wanted to carry on. I mean, his parents and his grandparents, they said, "You're making a big mistake, lad. You'll never make a name for yourself doing that. You tell me which one you know the best. Robert Louis Stevenson, the writer, or the rest of his family that built the lighthouses?" No, he didn't make a name for himself at all, did he? So that's Ballantrae in front of us, and beyond Ballantrae, a beautiful view of Ayrshire Craig. That plug of granite that's so famous for giving up its bits of rock to make the best quality curling stones in the world, bar none. Although they're not allowed to quarry the granite anymore, but they can nip across and collect bits that have broken off in the frosts and that sort of thing. But yes, Ballantrae. What we do know is that I mean, Robert Louis Stevenson, whenever he was doing research for his books or writing at all, he'd take rooms. And he'd rent rooms, and he'd spend his time in his rooms. But we also know that he was a very flamboyant character and a very flamboyant dresser. And the people of Ballantrae, supposedly, allegedly, reputedly, three words that mean exactly the same thing, might be true, might not. They didn't take to him, and they stoned him out of the village, sent him backpacking, and it is said that to get his own back on him, he changed the description of the village in his book so it didn't bear any relevance to the village itself at all. But that's Ballantrae. It means the town by the beach. And that's exactly what it is. And when the sun's shining like this, it's lovely. Now, how are you fixed as we pass even closer to Ayrshire Craig across there? For a bit of a bloodthirsty story. Well, you're going to get it anyway. You see, the modern road that we're on at the minute cuts around the back of the headland in front of us. This is Benan Head, Benan Head or Benan Head. And the road itself used to run right the way around the front of it, down by the sea. But a few years ago now they rerouted the road round the back. Well, there's a couple of caves across there. They're not sea caves as such, they're above the waterline, well above the waterline, but they were put to, I won't say put to good use. One was put to use by a local, a gentleman of the road. We call them tramps, you know, but this guy wasn't a tramp, he just dropped out of society. They called him Snip Scott. He was, he decided to live on his own, and he lived in a cave across here. His name was Ewing, I think. Either way, the locals befriended him, and they took him out supply, took him food parcels and all sorts to make sure he was comfortable. And he lived in one of these caves across here. This is something else that I've never been able to get across to with a coach. So I'm taking the opportunity to have a closer look myself, because I can. So yeah, that was Snip Scott, but there was another cave that was put to a far more unpleasant use. And we're talking back in the 16th century now. And there was a guy and his family, 48 of them there were allegedly. Alexander Bean as in baked bean, but he was known as Sawney. The legend of Sawney Bean is what I'm going to recite to you. Don't know if you can get across to the caves, but I'll get as close as I can. And I'll park up so that the audio is good, and I'll tell you a story about Sawney Bean. Sawney Bean and his family, clan, were responsible for the taking of literally hundreds of souls. And because the road ran across past their cave, it was a trail in those days, a track in those days, what they did was waylay travellers, rob them, murder them, and then take the bodies back to their cave where the bodies were dismembered. And stored in, well, pickled in vinegar and kept for consumption at a later date. Robbers, murderers, and cannibals, all across here. Came unstuck. One occasion there was a young recently married couple came across on horseback. They were waylaid, as was often the case. And without wishing to make a pun, they bit off more than they could chew with this guy. Sadly, his bride, she succumbed and she was murdered. She was killed. But the guy was good with a sword, and he put up a really good fight. Ran one or two of them through, and made good his getaway. I'm not sure whether they went back to Ballantrae or over to Girvan, the next place, but either way, raised the alarm. And the result of what word he'd passed, King James at Edinburgh put a posse together, and they came across and they rounded up Sawney Bean, and they found him guilty without trial of the heinous crimes he'd committed. And the menfolk were hung, and the womenfolk were burnt at the stake as witches because of the inhuman acts that they performed. And that is the story of Sawney Bean. I'm assured it's true. I stand to be corrected. There is a horrible, horrible film that went straight to DVD, and it's called Sawney Man of Flesh, and it's based on the story of Sawney Bean. But all the activity took place, I think, was in Glasgow. But I dare you to watch it. It's absolutely horrible. Sawney, Man of Flesh. So yes, that's Sawney Bean. So I'm just going to switch off and have a quick look and see what I can see. So this is the memorial to the gentleman I was talking about, Henry Ewing Talbot. Snib Scott, they called him. Lived in the cave behind us. Died in 1983. I didn't know it was that recent. Respected and independent. That's how much the locals thought of him, to put this memorial up for him. But you can see the entrance to the cave. That's subject to the stories. Glad I managed to get across here. That's crossed another T for me. The road's gated off now, so I can't come across on the bike, but... So... I don't know. Is it me? Or can I smell rotting flesh? Ooh, I don't know. Well, we're back on again. And this is a magnificent viewpoint. We're effectively directly above the sinister cave I've just been stood at the entrance to. But we've got a fantastic view of Ayrshire Coast out there. A plug of perfect quality granite, like I say, that gives up its little bits of stones to be made into curling stones, the best in the world, allegedly. And it's clearer than I thought it would be, but I don't know whether you can see it on the camera. Beyond, to the right of Ayrshire Coast, is the Isle of Arran. A beautiful island is the Isle of Arran. Microcosm of Scotland. Everything's there. Low moorlands, long beaches, high craggy mountains, everything. And it's marvellous. And then over beyond, if you can see that to the left of Ayrshire Coast, that's made famous by Paul McCartney and Wings, the Mull of Kintyre. That's that finger of mainland Scotland that reached down the far side of Arran and Ayrshire Coast. Right, just a little bit further, a couple more stories, and then I'll give you some peace. And we'll call it a day. Now just here on the left, this is where the old road would have come out. The road I sort of fed my way along, it would have come out just here. But just a little way along here is, it's not even a village really, is Lendlefoot. It's a lovely coastline, is this, a lovely rocky coastline. One or two gannets about. Always lots of seabirds across here. And some of these properties on the right, well, any one of these would do me just fine. The nearest it would look to a log cabin, the better. There's a whole row of them a little further along, but we're not going to go quite that far. Because I'm going to pull off onto this lay-by. Because again, I want to tell you a story. Two stories. You see, out... Oh, the seals are there. You can't see them. You can't pick them out, no doubt, but these rocks out in the middle distance, they've got quite a few seals basking on them. They're not actually basking in the sun. What they're doing is allowing the fish they've caught to digest. That's what they do that for. Anyway, just go out of the way of the traffic, because there's something I want to show you. Now, like I say, we've got two stories in one here. This whacking great big anchor gives you some idea of what one of the stories might be. Right, I'll do the rest of it with my phone. Battery's gone flat on my camera. Yes, so out there we've got the ruins, or the wreckage of a massive Russian battleship, the Variag. Like I said, not Viagra. Get out of the gutter. It's the Variag. And it was built in the UK, if memory serves, 1899, commissioned to the Russian Navy in 1901 and went into action against the Japanese in the early 1900s. The Japanese were so impressed with the way it conducted itself and its crew that even though they inflicted serious damage, and they scuttled it, the Japanese were so impressed with the vessel that they refloated it, and it went into action for the Japanese, called the Sawyer. At the end of those hostilities, it was handed back basically, and it was around about 1924 that the vessel was being towed back down past here on the way to being scrapped, and it broke free in rough weather from its cables and sank, and it lies out there as we speak. There we are. A monument to the cruiser Variag, and a big vessel it was too. So yes, that's and that lies beneath the waves, just out there towards Ayrshire Coast, really. Now the other story, concerns a tower house castle that you can see on the skyline out there in front of us. Now that is Carlton Castle, and back in the 1600s the owner of that castle was a Sir John
Cathcart. He was, if we believe the stories, a serial marrier. He married 6 times in total, but each of his first 5 wives didn't survive the wedding night. Apparently, the thing he did every time. He'd invite his new wife to take a walk along not here, but the cliffs, to a lovely patch of green grass, lush green grass, where they could consummate the marriage, if you know what I mean. And supposedly, having divested themselves of the wedding dress, during the throes of consummating the marriage, they went over the edge, tragically, and died. Now, in each of those 6 marriages, he only used 1 wedding dress. But on the 6th occasion, he proposed to a daughter of the Kennedys, which was a big family around here. But she was a canny lass, and she thought, there's something strange going on here. But either way, she went along with him, and of course every time he married, he got a dowry, didn't he? He was building up a nice little nest egg for himself through these dowries. And so she went along with him just to see what happened. And as usual, on the wedding night, he invited her to take a walk across a lovely plush patch of green grass where they could consummate the marriage. And when they got there, he invited her. He said, "Now, if you'd like to take your dress off, we'll get down to business," sort of thing. And she said, "Now, John, I know you're too much of a gentleman to watch me undress, so you turn your back while I get undressed." So he turned his back and she pushed him over the edge. And he died and she inherited the lot. Believe what you want to believe. These are stories that have been handed down to me in very good faith. So, that was Sir John Cathcart and his 6 wives. A bit like Henry VIII, I suppose, really. Never mind. Okay, with that, I'm going to sign off. I hope you've got the patience to watch through and listen to these stories, but yeah, they're there anyway. And give us a thumbs up, and like and subscribe and comment. I'm sure you've got some ribald comments to give me, but either way, yeah, that's it. I'll see you soon.